Apologize to him." The words cut through the training facility like a blade. 52 soldiers froze. The third-degree black belt instructor stood over a 71-year-old janitor, trembling on the floor. Blood from the old man's split lip dripped onto the mat. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then she stepped forward. 22 years old, 5'3", 125 pounds. The black belt laughed. "Or what, sweetheart?" She didn't answer. She just walked past him, knelt beside the old man, and helped him to his feet. Then she turned around. "You have 10 seconds to apologize, or I put you on this mat myself." Fort Campbell, Kentucky. 9:47 p.m. The night a janitor became a hero, and a bully learned what real strength looks like. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story until the very end. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from. We want to see how far this story travels. Now let us tell you what really happened that night. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects. Marcus Kane bounced on the balls of his feet at the center of the training mat, rolling his shoulders, cracking his neck. His black compression shirt stretched across 215 pounds of muscle. The Ranger Tab tattoo on his forearm glistened with sweat. Behind him, the third-degree black belt certificate hung on the wall. Spotlit. Framed. Like a trophy in a hunter's den. "This is what real combat looks like," Marcus announced to the 52 soldiers sitting along the walls. "Pay attention." His voice carried that particular brand of arrogance that comes from never being truly tested. Private Jeremy Walsh sat in the front row, 19 years old, fresh out of basic training, still soft around the edges. His hands were shaking, but he was trying to hide it by pressing them flat against his thighs. Marcus pointed at him. "You, get up here." Jeremy's face went pale. "Instructor Kane, I said get up here, now." Jeremy stood slowly. His legs felt like they were filled with concrete. He stepped onto the mat and faced the man who'd been making his life hell for 3 weeks. Marcus circled him like a predator. Slow, deliberate. Every soldier in that room had been Jeremy at some point. Every one of them knew what was coming. "Block this!" Marcus didn't give Jeremy time to set his stance. The punch came fast, pulled at the last second, but close enough that Jeremy felt the wind of it against his face. He flinched. His foot caught on the mat. He went down hard on his back. The soldiers along the wall didn't laugh. They'd learned not to. Laughing meant Marcus noticed you. Being noticed meant you were next. Marcus stood over Jeremy, shaking his head slowly. The disappointment on his face was theatrical. Rehearsed. "Pathetic." He extended his hand. Jeremy reached for it. Marcus yanked it away. "You think the enemy is going to help you up? You think they're going to feel sorry for you?" Marcus turned to address his audience, already dismissing Jeremy like he was garbage. "This is what happens when you go soft. When you forget that combat isn't about rules or fairness. It's about survival." Jeremy scrambled to his feet on his own. His face burned with humiliation. His eyes stung, but he wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. He returned to his spot along the wall. The soldier next to him, a staff sergeant named Rodriguez, gave him a small nod. Solidarity. Understanding. They'd all been there. Marcus continued his demonstration. More strikes, more combinations, each one designed to show off, to intimidate, to remind everyone in that room who was in charge. "Out there in the real world," Marcus said, throwing a spinning back kick that snapped through the air, "nobody cares if you're scared. Nobody cares if it hurts. They care about results." 30 feet above the training floor, behind a glass observation window, Olivia Mercer stood watching. She was taking notes for her contractor evaluation report, but she'd stopped writing 3 minutes ago. Her pen was still in her hand, but her fingers had gone white around it. 22 years old. 5'3", 125 pounds. Built like a wire, all of it condensed into something that looked breakable, but wasn't. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, so tight it could have been painted on. A thin scar bisected her left eyebrow, a souvenir from Fallujah that she never bothered to cover. Under her contractor polo shirt, her arms told a story in scar tissue that most people couldn't read, but all operators recognized. She'd been at Fort Campbell for 8 weeks. 8 weeks of watching Marcus Kane cross lines. 8 weeks of soldiers coming to her office in private, sitting across from her desk with bruises they couldn't explain, and fear in their eyes, saying things like, "He's going to kill someone eventually, and we're scared to report him," and "His father is a major general, nothing will happen." 8 weeks of writing reports that went nowhere. 8 weeks of being told to document, but not act. Olivia watched Marcus throw another combination, a throat strike, an elbow, a knee. Every movement technically perfect, every movement designed to destroy. She closed her notebook. She was done watching. The training room door opened with a soft click. Every head turned. An older man shuffled in, pushing a maintenance cart. He wore the dark blue coveralls of base custodial staff. His shoulders were slightly hunched. His gait was careful, the kind of careful that came from joints that didn't work like they used to. Walter Hendricks was 71 years old, though he could pass for older. His hair had gone white 2 decades ago. His hands shook sometimes, especially when it was cold, or when loud noises came without warning. He'd been the night janitor at Fort Campbell for 9 years. Before that, he'd been a lot of things, but that was a long time ago. "Excuse me," Walter said quietly. His voice was gravelly, worn smooth like river stones. "Scheduled maintenance for 9:30. I can come back." The room went still. Marcus turned slowly. His eyes narrowed. His smile was the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "Can't you see we're training, old man?" Walter nodded, already backing toward the door. "Yes, sir. My apologies. I'll return after." "You deaf or stupid?" The question hung in the air like poison. Walter stopped moving. His hand tightened on the maintenance cart handle. For just a second, so fast that most people missed it, something flickered behind his eyes. Something that wasn't old age. Something that remembered different times, different wars, different men who thought they were predators. "Sir, I'm just doing my job. I'll come back after your class." Marcus crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. He didn't touch Walter. Not yet. He just stood there using his height, his youth, his position, using everything he had to make an old man feel small. "You don't tell me what you'll do. This is my facility, my class." He gestured to the soldiers watching along the wall. 52 pairs of eyes, all looking anywhere but at the confrontation. "These men are learning real combat. You think your job is more important than their training?" "No, sir." "Then get the hell out." Walter turned to leave. He'd made it 2 steps when Marcus grabbed his shoulder, spun him around, and shoved. Not hard enough to be assault on camera. Not hard enough to leave visible marks. Just hard enough to make a point. Walter stumbled. His hip caught the edge of the maintenance cart. The cart tipped. Cleaning supplies spilled across the floor, bottles, rolling rags, scattering the smell of disinfectant, filling the air. And Walter went down. Not fast, but inevitable. Like watching a tree fall in slow motion. He hit the mat with a sound that was too loud in the silent room. Marcus stood over him. Clumsy old bastard. Some of the soldiers had their phones out, recording. They always recorded. evidence or entertainment depending on what happened next. Walter lay there for a moment. His hands were shaking worse now. Both of them pressed flat against the mat like he was trying to remember how to do a push-up. Or like he was somewhere else entirely. Some other floor. Some other time. Some other war. His breathing had changed. Faster. Shallower. The kind of breathing that came with panic attacks, with PTSD flashbacks, with being thrown back to a desert 40 years ago, where falling down meant dying. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. Look at him. Can't even stand up. He walked back toward his students, dismissing the old man like he was trash on the sidewalk. And you wonder why they put him out to pasture. This is what happens when you don't maintain combat readiness. You become useless. Weak. A burden on society instead of an asset. He was playing to his audience now. Voice getting louder. More theatrical. In the real world, weakness gets you killed. And if you're lucky, it only gets you killed. If you're unlucky, he paused for effect. Your weakness gets your brothers killed. Some of the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They knew Marcus was crossing a line, but nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Fear was a powerful motivator. This old man probably never even saw combat, Marcus continued. Probably spent his career pushing papers in some air-conditioned office. Now he's cleaning up after real warriors because that's enough. The voice came from the doorway. Not loud, but it carried. It had the kind of weight that made every head in the room turn. Olivia Mercer stood in the entrance to the training facility. She'd come down from the observation deck without anyone noticing. She was still holding her notebook in one hand, but her other hand hung loose at her side. Relaxed. Ready. Marcus turned. His eyes narrowed when he saw her. Small woman. Contractor badge. Nobody important. Who the hell are you? Olivia walked into the room. Her boots didn't make a sound on the mat. She moved like water, like something that could slip through cracks you didn't know existed. She walked straight past Marcus without looking at him. She knelt beside Walter. Sir, are you hurt? Walter looked up at her. His eyes were gray, faded like old denim, but they were sharp. Alert. He studied her face for a moment, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe? Or just the acknowledgement that comes when one operator sees another. I'm fine, miss. Just clumsy. Olivia helped him to his feet. Her hands were gentle, but firm. She steadied him, checking his pupils, watching his breathing, assessing for injury, with the practiced eye of someone who'd done field medicine under fire. Then she bent down to pick up the scattered cleaning supplies. Marcus watched this with an expression of confusion and contempt. You his girlfriend or something? The soldiers along the wall shifted uncomfortably. They could feel where this was going. Olivia straightened up. She looked at Marcus for the first time. Really looked at him. The way a sniper looks at a target. Measuring distance. Calculating. I'm the person telling you to apologize. Marcus blinked. Then he laughed. It started as a chuckle, but grew into something bigger. Meaner. Some of his students joined in. Not all of them, but enough. Apologize. Marcus took a step forward. Then another. He was trying to use his size again. It was his favorite weapon. Do you know who I am? Marcus Kane. Olivia's voice was flat. She was reciting facts like she was reading from a file. Former Army Ranger, washed out after 18 months, third-degree black belt in Krav Maga, son of Major General Raymond Kane, currently serving at the Pentagon. The laughter stopped. Currently under investigation for excessive force complaints. 3 formal complaints in the last year, 7 informal, all buried by your father's influence. Marcus's face went red. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? A bully with a black belt. Olivia set down the cleaning supplies she'd gathered. Still just a bully. Marcus stepped closer. Close enough that they could have touched. Close enough that everyone in the room could see the size difference. He was 6'3", 215 pounds of muscle and anger. She was 5'3", 125 pounds of something he didn't understand. You've got balls, I'll give you that. Marcus's voice had gone quiet. The dangerous kind of quiet. But you don't know what you're messing with. I know exactly what you are. Yeah, Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then you know I'm a third-degree black belt. I trained under the best Krav Maga instructors in Israel. I've put down men twice your size. I've fought in places that would make you... You want to test that theory? The question hung in the air. Marcus's smile faltered for just a moment. He hadn't expected that. I want you to apologize to Walter. Behind Olivia, Walter made a small sound. A warning. A plea. Miss, don't. It's not worth... He's a veteran. Olivia was still looking at Marcus. He deserves respect. Marcus laughed again. Louder this time. More forced. A veteran? He's a janitor. Probably never saw combat in his life. Just one of those stolen valor, 82nd Airborne. Marcus stopped mid-sentence. Operation Desert Storm, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Combat Infantry Badge. Olivia's voice cut through his words like a blade. I can see it from here. The way he stands, the way he moves, the scars on his hands, the PTSD trigger you just activated by pushing him down. She took a step forward. Just one. But somehow it felt like the whole room shifted. He's seen more combat than you ever will. Complete silence. Even the soldiers who'd been recording had lowered their phones. Marcus's jaw worked, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. You think you know everything, don't you? His voice was shaking now. With rage, with humiliation, with the crushing weight of being challenged by someone half his size. You think you can come into my facility, my class, and tell me what to do? I think you owe him an apology. Or what? Marcus spread his arms wide. The gesture was meant to be intimidating, to remind everyone how big he was, how powerful. What are you going to do about it, sweetheart? Olivia looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the soldiers along the wall, at the ones who'd been on the receiving end of Marcus's lessons, at the ones who'd come to her office with bruises they couldn't explain, at the ones who stayed silent because speaking up meant their careers were over. Private Jeremy Walsh was watching her with something like hope in his eyes. She looked back at Marcus. If you won't apologize, then we step on the mat. The room erupted. Not in sound, in energy. Every soldier sat up straighter. Phones came back up. The air itself seemed to tighten. Marcus's smile was huge now. Genuine. This was what he'd wanted all along. You want to fight me? He laughed a real laugh this time. Okay, sweetheart. Here's the deal. You and me right here, right now. If you last 30 seconds without tapping, I'll apologize to the old man. He stepped back onto the center of the mat, spreading his arms wide. But when I break you in 10 seconds, and I will break you, you resign your contractor position. You pack your stuff, and you never set foot on this base again. Deal. The word came out fast. No hesitation. Marcus's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected her to agree so quickly. Olivia looked at Walter. The old man was shaking his head slowly. His lips formed the word, don't, but no sound came out. She looked at the soldiers, at the private Marcus had humiliated earlier, at the ones with bruises, at the ones with fear. She looked at the ones who were recording. 52 witnesses. 52 phones. More than enough. She stepped onto the mat. When I drop you in front of these witnesses, she said quietly, You resign. You leave this base. You never train another soldier. Deal. Marcus was bouncing on his feet now, excited. A predator who'd just found easy prey. When you drop me? He laughed. Oh, sweetheart, this is going to be fun. Olivia removed her contractor polo shirt. Underneath, she wore a gray tank top. And every soldier in that room went silent. Her arms were a road map of scar tissue. 3 bullet wounds, 2 in her left shoulder, 1 in her right bicep. Shrapnel scars across her forearms. A knife wound that ran from her collarbone to her elbow. Burns on her right forearm that looked like they came from an explosion. Her body told a story that Marcus Kane couldn't read, because he'd never lived in a place where those stories were written. She stepped to the center of the mat, dropped her weight, set her stance. Marcus saw her posture and laughed. What is that self-defense class at the Y? He didn't wait for an answer. He came in fast, bouncing, hands up, showing off for the crowd. He threw a jab. Olivia slipped it, barely moved her head. He threw a cross. She parried it with her left hand, redirecting the force past her ear. He spun into a back kick, all flash, all power. Olivia took a single step back. The kick passed in front of her face, close enough to feel the wind of it. Apex, apex, apex. Some of the soldiers were chanting Marcus's call sign, the name he'd given himself. Marcus grinned. This was his element. An audience, a smaller opponent, the chance to prove what everyone already knew. He came in again. Combination this time. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, knee. Good technique. Clean technique. The kind of technique you learn in a gym with padded floors and a coach who makes sure nobody actually gets hurt. Olivia defended it all. Slip, parry, block, check. She didn't counter, didn't attack, just defended. Her feet moved in small, precise steps. Her hands moved in tight, efficient arcs. Nothing wasted, nothing extra. Marcus landed one punch to her ribs, not hard but solid enough that everyone heard it connect. Olivia didn't react, didn't grunt, didn't wince. She just kept her guard up and kept moving. Come on, Marcus shouted. Fight back. Show me what you got. But Olivia wasn't showing anything. She was reading, watching, learning. Inside her head, her father's voice spoke. Calm, clear, like he was standing right beside her. First rule, Olivia. Read your opponent. Watch how they move. Everyone has a tell. Find it. She found it. Marcus favored his right side. Every combination ended with a right hand. Every kick came off his right leg. An old injury, maybe. Or just bad training habits. It didn't matter. It was there. Second rule. Make them think they're winning. Marcus was thinking he was winning. His confidence was growing with every defended strike. His smile was getting bigger. His movements were getting flashier. He threw a spinning back fist that looked like it came from a movie. All style, no substance. Olivia ducked under it easily. The soldiers watching were starting to notice things. The ones who actually knew how to fight. The ones who'd seen real combat. Her footwork, one of them muttered. She's not even breathing hard, another said. Why isn't she tired? 2 minutes had passed. Marcus was breathing like he'd run a mile. Sweat darkened his compression shirt. His strikes were getting wilder, less controlled. He threw a haymaker that would have knocked out a horse if it had landed. Olivia leaned back 6 inches. The punch passed in front of her face, close enough to count her eyelashes. Stand still, Marcus roared. Third rule, sweetheart. When they lose control, that's when you end it. Marcus rushed in, frustrated, angry, forgetting everything he'd learned. He went for a takedown. Double leg, wrestler style. Drive through the hips, wrap the legs, take them down. It was exactly what Olivia had been waiting for. She sprawled, her hips shot back. Her weight crashed down on Marcus's shoulders. Her right hand came up in a cross-face palm to his jaw, violent and precise. Marcus's face slammed into the mat. His momentum died. He was stuck bent at the waist, unable to move forward or back. And then Olivia moved like liquid. She spun to his back in one motion. Her body flowed around his like water around a rock. Her legs wrapped around his torso in a body triangle, heels locked, squeezing. Her right arm snaked around his throat, forearm against his windpipe. Left hand grabbing her right bicep, left forearm against the back of his head. Rear naked choke. Textbook. Perfect. It had taken 3 seconds. 3 seconds from the moment Marcus shot for the takedown to the moment Olivia locked it in. Marcus's hands came up immediately, grabbing at her arm, trying to pull it away, but it wasn't going anywhere. Olivia's arm was locked in place like it had been welded there. She squeezed. Not hard enough to put him out, just hard enough to let him know she could. Marcus tapped. Fast. Frantic. Slapping Olivia's arm with one hand. The mat with the other. Tap. 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 Olivia didn't let go. She leaned close to his ear. Her voice was barely a whisper, quiet enough that only Marcus could hear. Apologize. Marcus kept tapping. Harder now. His face was turning red. The vein in his forehead was bulging. Tap, 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 tap. I said apologize. She held it for 2 more seconds, long enough for Marcus to understand what helpless felt like, long enough for him to understand what every soldier he'd bullied had felt, long enough for him to understand that he wasn't the apex predator in this room. He never had been. She let go. Marcus gasped, rolled away, clutched his throat. He lay on the mat chest, heaving face-red eyes wide with shock and rage, and something that might have been fear. Olivia stood up, stepped back to a neutral position. Her breathing was even. Her heart rate was steady. She looked like she'd just finished a light jog. The training facility was silent. 52 soldiers sat frozen. Phones still recording. Mouths open. They had just watched something that shouldn't have been possible. Size didn't matter. Strength didn't matter. Rank didn't matter. The 3rd-degree black belt certificate on the wall meant nothing. Nothing at all. Against someone who'd learned to fight in places where losing meant dying. Olivia walked over to where Walter stood by the overturned maintenance cart. She knelt down, picked up the last of the cleaning supplies, and handed them to him. Are you okay, sir? Walter took the bottles with shaking hands. His eyes were wet. He nodded once, unable to speak. Olivia stood, turned to face Marcus, who was pulling himself to his feet, still holding his throat. Resignation letter on the commander's desk by 0800 hours. Her voice was calm, matter of fact, like she was ordering coffee. Or I send these videos to the DOD Inspector General. Every one of them. Every complaint. Every incident. Everything. She gestured to the soldiers with their phones. There's about 52 pieces of evidence here. Should be enough. Marcus's mouth worked, but no sound came out. His face was purple now. Purple with rage and humiliation, and the crushing weight of being exposed in front of everyone he'd spent years intimidating. You're dead, he finally managed to croak. You hear me? You're dead. Your father is going to have bigger problems by morning. Olivia walked toward the exit. She stopped at the door. looked back. "You should get that throat checked out. I might have left a bruise." She walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. The training facility remained silent for 30 seconds after she left. Then slowly one of the soldiers started clapping. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the room erupted. Not the kind of cheering you hear at a sports game. Something different. Something deeper. The sound of people who'd been held underwater finally breaking the surface. The sound of fear breaking. Private Jeremy Walsh was on his feet, clapping harder than anyone. There were tears on his face, but he was smiling. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez was laughing, actually laughing for the first time in months. And Marcus Kane stood in the center of the mat, surrounded by soldiers who'd feared him 5 minutes ago. Now they looked at him like he was nothing at all. He turned and ran from the room. Outside in the cool Kentucky night, Olivia stood in the parking lot. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed adrenaline. She pressed them against the cool metal of her truck and took deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way her father had taught her when she was 8 years old and had just killed her first deer and was crying because death was real and permanent and terrifying. She heard footsteps behind her. Slow, careful. She turned. Walter Hendricks stood there 20 feet away, like he was afraid to come closer. His maintenance cart was parked by the building. His hands were still shaking, but his eyes were clear. "Miss, wait, please." Olivia straightened up. "Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention? I know who you are." Olivia went still. Really still. The kind of still that happens when a sniper is on the scope and a target appears. Walter took a step closer, then another. He moved like someone approaching a skittish animal, like someone who understood that the most dangerous things in the world often looked harmless. "Your stance," he said quietly. "The way you fight, the way you hold yourself." He gestured vaguely at her. "You're Daniel Mercer's daughter." Something cold spread through Olivia's chest. "How do you— 82nd Airborne, Operation Desert Storm 1991. Later got attached to Special Operations. Spent time at Fort Campbell in 2012. Walter's voice had changed. It wasn't the voice of an old janitor anymore. It was the voice of someone who'd been someone else once. "And your father was—" He paused. "Your father was my instructor. Combat tactics. Close quarters. He taught me how to stay alive." Olivia's throat felt tight. She hadn't talked about her father with anyone outside of official channels in years. Hadn't heard his name spoken by someone who'd actually known him. "He died," she said. Her voice came out rougher than she intended. 12 years ago, Afghanistan, October 2012. Walter was quiet for a long moment. The parking lot lights hummed overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a drill sergeant was yelling at someone about something. The normal sounds of a military base at night. "I was there," Walter said finally. Olivia's world tilted. "What? Helmand Province, October 2012. I was attached to your father's unit for that rotation. We were on a recon patrol. 7 men. Standard sweep of a village that intel said was clear." Walter's hands had stopped shaking. His eyes were somewhere else now. Some other desert. Some other night. It wasn't clear. Olivia couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. She'd read the after-action report 100 times. Had memorized every word. But it was all official language. Sanitized. KIA during enemy engagement. Remains not recovered. "Ambush," Walter said. "They knew we were coming. Knew exactly where we'd be. The first RPG took out our lead vehicle. Small arms fire from 3 directions. We were pinned. His voice cracked slightly. Your father... He paused. Swallowed. Your father told me to run. Get to the rally point. Get help. I told him no. He made it an order. Said somebody had to make it back to tell what happened. So you ran. It wasn't a question. It wasn't an accusation. It was just a fact. I ran, Walter confirmed. His voice was hollow. I heard the gunfire behind me. Explosions. Screaming. I ran for 3 miles. Made it to friendly lines. Told them everything. They sent in the QRF Quick Reaction Force. Went in with helicopters and heavy weapons. When they got there, he stopped. No bodies, Olivia said. She knew this part. It was in the report. No bodies, Walter agreed. Evidence of the firefight, blood shell casings, destroyed equipment. But no bodies. Not your father. Not the other 6 men in our unit. They declared him KIA anyway, after 6 months. Standard procedure when there's no possibility of recovery. I know. I was there for the memorial service. Walter looked at her directly now. I've been carrying something for 12 years. Something I couldn't tell anyone because they ordered me not to. Threatened me with Article 88 violations if I spoke about it. Olivia felt her pulse in her throat. Pounding. But you need to know. Know what? Walter took a deep breath. That ambush wasn't random. It was too precise, too organized. They wanted your father specifically. They knew who he was. They knew what he could do. And the fact that there were no bodies... He stepped closer. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Miss Mercer, I don't think your father died that day. The parking lot seemed to spin. Olivia grabbed the truck for support. That's impossible. They would have told me. If there was any chance he was alive, they wouldn't have... Not if it was politically complicated. Not if recovering him meant risking more lives or damaging relationships with the Syrians or the Russians, or whoever else was involved. Walter reached into his maintenance cart and pulled out a small box. Plain cardboard, sealed with tape. I've been collecting evidence for 12 years. Unofficial reports, intelligence leaks, POW sightings. It's all in here. He held it out to her. Olivia stared at it like it was a live grenade. Why are you telling me this now? Because that video you just made in there, Walter gestured toward the training facility. It's going to go viral. By morning, your face will be everywhere. And if your father is alive somewhere being held by people who pay attention to this kind of thing... He pressed the box into her hands. They're going to know Daniel Mercer has a daughter, and they're going to know she's skilled, dangerous, valuable. Olivia looked down at the box. It was light, maybe 5 pounds. Inside was either proof that her father was alive or 12 years of a desperate man's delusions. There's something else, Walter said. Olivia looked up. Marcus Kane. He's not just a bully. He's not just some washout with anger issues. Walter's voice went even quieter. I've been watching him for 2 years. Meetings with people he shouldn't be meeting with. Money changing hands. Encrypted communications. His eyes were hard now. Sharp. The eyes of a soldier who'd spent 40 years reading threats. I think he's connected to whoever has your father. Olivia's blood went cold. That's a serious accusation. I know, and I can't prove it. Not yet. Walter stepped back, grabbed his maintenance cart. But if I'm right, then what you did in there tonight just made you a target. He started to walk away, then stopped, turned back. Read what's in the box, then decide what you want to do. But Olivia... He used her first name for the first time. Be careful. If your father is alive, he's been a prisoner for 12 years. The people who could do that, who could keep an American operator locked up for that long. He shook his head. They're not going to give him up easily. He turned and walked away, pushing his cart, becoming just an old janitor again. But Olivia had seen through that disguise now. She'd seen the soldier underneath, the one who'd been carrying guilt and secrets for 12 years. She looked down at the box in her hands. Somewhere behind her, inside the training facility, she could hear cheering, celebrating, the sound of fear breaking. But out here in the dark Kentucky night, something else was beginning. Something that would take her across the world. Something that would test everything she thought she knew. Something that would change everything. Olivia climbed into her truck, set the box on the passenger seat, and drove into the night. Behind her, 52 soldiers were uploading videos to every social media platform they could find. By morning, 3 million people would watch Olivia Mercer drop a third-degree black belt in front of 50 witnesses. By morning, her face would be everywhere. By morning, people she didn't know in countries she'd never been would be making phone calls about Daniel Mercer's daughter. But Olivia didn't know that yet. Right now, she was just driving home with a box full of possibilities, and the ghost of her father riding in the passenger seat. Olivia's hands were still shaking when she unlocked her apartment door at 2 a.m. The box sat on her kitchen table now, plain cardboard, sealed with tape. 5 pounds of either hope or madness. She stared at it for 30 minutes before she finally broke the seal. The contents spilled across the table. Intelligence reports with classification stamps that shouldn't exist outside of secure facilities. Photographs. Some clear, most grainy. Handwritten notes in Walter's careful script. Names, dates, locations. A constellation of information that formed a picture Olivia didn't want to see, but couldn't look away from. She started with the photographs. The first one showed a group of men in desert camouflage. American uniforms, but no unit patches. Taken from a distance. Maybe surveillance footage. One man in the center stood taller than the others. Blonde hair. His face was turned away from the camera. The timestamp read March 2015. 3 years after her father supposedly died. Olivia's heart stopped. The next photograph was worse. A prison yard. Concrete walls. Razor wire. A man sitting against a wall. Thin, bearded. His head down. The angle was wrong to see his face clearly, but his right forearm was visible, and on that forearm was a scar. Olivia knew that scar. She'd asked about it when she was 7 years old. Her father had told her it was from a piece of shrapnel in Mogadishu back when she was still in diapers. Her phone buzzed. Then again. Then it didn't stop buzzing. Olivia picked it up. 217 messages. 346 missed calls. Her inbox was full. Her social media was exploding with notifications. She opened her phone. The first thing she saw was her own face, the video from the training facility. Someone had posted it with the title, "Female Contractor Destroys Black Belt Bully in Front of 50 Soldiers." 3.2 million views in 6 hours. The comments were a flood. Most were supportive. Some were analyzing her technique. Others were trying to figure out who she was. And someone about an hour ago had posted the answer. That's Olivia Mercer, daughter of Master Sergeant Daniel Mercer, who died a hero in Afghanistan. She's a former Marine Force recon sniper. 47 confirmed kills. Purple Heart. This is what happens when you mess with a warrior's daughter. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Olivia Mercer. A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. This is Jennifer Walsh from CNN. We'd love to interview you about the incident at Fort Campbell. We can offer... Olivia hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. She turned it off. The sun was coming up when she finally finished reading everything in Walter's box. By then, she'd compiled a timeline that made her sick. October 2012. Her father's unit was ambushed. 7 men. No bodies recovered. November 2012. First POW sighting matching his description. Pakistan. March 2013. Another sighting. Iran. July 2014. Intercepted communication mentioning the American instructor being moved. January 2015. Grainy photograph from Syria. And on and on. Breadcrumbs. Whispers. Ghosts of evidence that added up to a possibility Olivia had never allowed herself to consider. Her father might be alive. Somewhere in the desert. Somewhere she couldn't reach. Yet, the last item in the box was a USB drive. Olivia plugged it into her laptop. Single file. Video. She clicked play. The footage was dark, night vision green, a compound somewhere, all concrete and rust. The camera was shaky. Hidden, like someone had filmed this while running. Men in desert fatigues moved between buildings. The timestamp was 6 months ago, and then the camera panned to a doorway. A man was being led out, his hands bound, his head down. He was thin. Too thin. His hair and beard were long and gray, but when he looked up for just a moment, his eyes caught the light. Olivia knew those eyes. She'd inherited them. She watched the video 17 times. Then she closed her laptop and sat in the dark apartment as the sun finished rising outside her window. Her phone, still off, sat on the table next to the photograph of her father at her high school graduation. In the picture, he was smiling. Proud. Wearing his dress uniform. He'd been so alive then. So present, so there. She'd spent 12 years believing he was dead, 12 years honoring his memory, 12 years trying to be worthy of the legacy he'd left behind. If he was alive, everything changed. If he was alive, she was going to find him, or die trying. The knock came at 0700 hours. 3 sharp raps. Official. Olivia had been expecting it. She opened the door. A captain in dress uniform stood there with 2 MPs behind him. His face was professionally blank. "Ms. Mercer, I need you to come with me. Colonel Harrison wants to see you immediately." Olivia nodded. She'd already showered and changed into clean contractor attire. She grabbed her badge and followed them to the parking lot. Fort Campbell's command building was old brick and ceremony. Olivia had been here twice before, both times for contract briefings. Now she was being led down corridors she'd never seen. Past offices with secret stamps on the doors. To a conference room at the end of the hall. Colonel Harrison sat at the head of the table. 60 years old, gray-haired, the kind of face that had seen everything and was impressed by nothing. Next to him sat a man in a civilian suit. FBI, Olivia guessed from the way he held himself. Across from them, separated by intention, sat Major General Raymond Kane, Marcus's father. The general looked like his son. Same build, same jaw, same arrogance, but older, harder, with stars on his shoulders and the weight of command in his eyes. "Sit down, Ms. Mercer," the colonel said. Olivia sat. She kept her hands visible on the table, relaxed but ready. "I assume you know why you're here. The incident with Instructor Kane last night." "The incident." The general spoke for the first time. His voice was ice. "You assaulted my son." "I defended myself and a veteran who was being harassed. There were 52 witnesses, all recording. My son is a 3rd-degree black belt and a combat instructor. You're a contractor with no authority to intervene in base training operations." Olivia looked at him directly. Your son is a bully who was discharged from the Rangers for excessive violence. You pulled strings to get him the instructor position. He's been abusing soldiers for 2 years. I have 17 formal complaints that were buried. She paused. Want me to continue? The room went very quiet. The FBI agent cleared his throat. Ms. Mercer, I'm Special Agent David Webb. I'm here because this situation is more complicated than a simple altercation. He slid a folder across the table. We've been investigating certain activities at Fort Campbell. Activities involving intelligence leaks, unauthorized communications with foreign nationals, and possible espionage. Olivia didn't touch the folder. And you think I'm involved? No, we think Marcus Kane is involved. General Kane stood up so fast his chair fell over. That's absurd. My son is a patriot. He's... Sit down, General. Agent Webb's voice was quiet, but it carried. The General sat. We've been monitoring your son for 8 months, since we received intelligence that someone on this base was passing information to a network run by a former Soviet operative named Nikolai Volkov. Olivia felt something cold settle in her chest. Volkov. The name from Walter's notes. Agent Webb continued. Last night's video complicated things. It went viral. By this morning it had been viewed 7 million times. It's been shared on platforms we monitor, including dark web forums used by terrorist organizations and hostile intelligence services. He pulled out his phone. Showed Olivia a screenshot. The text was in Russian. Below it was a still frame from the video. Olivia mid-fight, her face clearly visible. Someone had circled her in red. Agent Webb translated. Mercer has daughter, skilled operator, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, high-value target. Who posted it? Olivia asked. We traced it to an account linked to Volkov's network, the same network we believe may have captured your father 12 years ago. Olivia's fingers tightened on the table. You knew he might be alive. We had unconfirmed reports, POW sightings, nothing concrete enough to act on. Pursuing it would have meant negotiating with hostile governments, risking international incidents, potentially endangering other operations. Agent Webb's voice was careful, professional. The decision was made to list him as KIA. Who made that decision? People above my pay grade. Olivia looked at the general. Did you know? General Kane's face had gone gray. He didn't answer. The general knew. Agent Webb confirmed. He was read in on the intelligence 6 years ago, when his son was recruited by Volkov's network. That's a lie, Kane said, but his voice was hollow. Volkov has leverage on you, General. Photographs of certain activities during your deployment to Germany in 2015. Activities involving a local national who was not your wife. He threatened to expose you unless you allowed your son to remain in position at Fort Campbell, where he could continue gathering intelligence. Agent Webb's voice was clinical, matter of fact. You chose your career over national security. The general's hands were shaking now. He looked 10 years older than he had 5 minutes ago. Olivia stood up. Where's Marcus Kane now? We're moving on him this morning. Arrest warrant is being executed as we speak. Agent Webb looked at her. He's been under surveillance since your video went viral. We accelerated our timeline because of the dark web chatter. Volkov's people are agitated. They know Kane is compromised. What about my father? Agent Webb's expression softened slightly. We believe he's alive. He's being held at a compound in Syria 40 miles from the Turkish border. Volkov uses him as a training asset, forces him to teach combat techniques to fighters who are then sold to the highest bidder. Olivia felt the floor drop away. Her father. Alive. held prisoner for 12 years, being forced to train the enemy. "We're going to get him," Agent Webb said. "We're putting together an official extraction, but it's going to take time. Diplomatic channels, coordination with allied forces, approval from, how much time? 6 months, maybe a year. These things are delicate." Olivia looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the colonel, then at the general who wouldn't meet her eyes. "No. Ms. Mercer, no." Her voice was still quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. "You've had 12 years. You knew he was alive, and you did nothing. You chose politics over his life. I'm not waiting another 6 months while you navigate diplomatic channels." "What exactly are you suggesting?" the colonel asked. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you I'm done with this conversation." Olivia walked to the door, then stopped. "If you want to arrest me for last night, do it. Otherwise, I'm leaving." "Ms. Mercer, if you're thinking about doing something unsanctioned, something outside official channels, I strongly advise." Olivia opened the door and walked out. Behind her, she heard Agent Webb sigh. "Should we stop her?" one of the MPs asked. "Stop her how?" the colonel said. "She's a civilian contractor. We have no authority to detain her without charges." Olivia kept walking, out of the building, across the base, to her truck. She sat in the driver's seat for a moment, hands on the wheel, breathing. Then she pulled out her phone, turned it on, made a call. "Hawk," she said when he answered. "I need you to come to Campbell. Bring Doc and Fitz. Don't ask questions. Just come." "Roger that, Ghost," Thatcher Monroe said. "ETA 12 hours. Olivia made 3 more calls. Same message. Then she drove back to her apartment and started packing. Walter was waiting outside her door when she got there. "I heard about the meeting," he said. "FBI came to talk to me this morning. They know everything." "I figured they might. I've been less careful than I should have been. Old man losing his edge." He smiled, but it was sad. "What are you going to do? What I should have done 12 years ago, if anyone had told me the truth. They won't sanction a mission. Too politically complicated." "I know." Walter nodded slowly. "Then you're going to need help." "I have help coming." "I mean me." Olivia looked at him. Really looked at him. He was 71 years old. His hands shook. He had PTSD and bad knees and a limp he tried to hide. "Walter, I ran away once," he said. His voice was steady. "When your father told me to. I followed orders and I ran, and I've lived with that guilt every single day since." He met her eyes. "I'm not running again." "This isn't your fight." "The hell it isn't. Your father saved my life in Kuwait. Took a bullet meant for me. Spent 3 weeks in the hospital while I walked away without a scratch." Walter's eyes were clear, hard. The eyes of a soldier who'd never stopped being a soldier. "I owe him a debt I can never repay. But I can try. Let me try." Olivia wanted to say no, wanted to tell him he was too old, too broken, too much of a liability. But she saw something in his eyes that she recognized. The same thing she saw in the mirror every morning. The need to do something that mattered. The need to make things right. "Support only," she said finally. "You don't enter the compound. You stay back and provide overwatch and communications relay. Whatever you need." They went inside. Olivia's apartment became a tactical operations center. She spread maps across the floor. Syrian desert, Turkish border region, satellite imagery she pulled from classified databases she shouldn't have access to, but did because Fitz had taught her how. She found the compound exactly where Walter's intelligence said it would be. Concrete structures arranged in a rough square, guard towers on 3 corners, single road in and out, 40 miles from the nearest town. Isolated, defensible, perfect for keeping someone prisoner, perfect for mounting a rescue that would probably get them all killed. Her team arrived in waves. Hawk first, driving through the night from Virginia, 26 years old, built like a linebacker. Southern drawl that got thicker when he was lying and disappeared completely when he was serious. "Ghost," he said, pulling her into a hug that lifted her off the ground. "Whatever you need, I'm in." Doc Lancaster came next, flying in from California, 29, quiet, gentle hands, a medic's calm that never broke even when everything around him was chaos. "Heard you started a war without me," he said. "Rude." Fitzgerald was after that, driving up from Florida with a trunk full of electronics that would make the NSA jealous. 27. Thin. Eyes that never stopped moving, never stopped calculating. "Show me what we're working with," he said. Maya Chen arrived last, flying in from Texas on the first available flight. 24. Former Army sniper. 200 confirmed kills. Hands steady enough to thread a needle in a hurricane. "You saved my life in Raqqa," she said to Olivia. "You call, I answer. No questions." Olivia showed them everything. The maps, the intelligence, the video of her father. She told them about Walter's evidence, the FBI investigation, the compound in Syria. She told them this mission would be completely unsanctioned, possibly illegal, definitely career-ending if they survived. When she finished, the room was quiet. "So we're invading Syria," Hawk said finally. "That's the plan." "Cool. I've always wanted to invade Syria." Doc laughed. "You realize they'll court-martial us if we survive?" "Only if they catch us," Fitz said. He was already working on his laptop, fingers flying across keys. "Give me 6 hours. I can map their security systems, find their blind spots, hack their communications." "We'll need gear," Hawk said. "Weapons, armor, explosives. Can't exactly walk into Syria with our service weapons." "I have a contact," Olivia said. "Bulgarian arms dealer. Specializes in off-books equipment for private military contractors." "How much is this going to cost?" "Everything I have. Everything I can borrow. About $240,000. Hawk whistled. "That's your life savings." Olivia looked at him. "My father's been a prisoner for 12 years. Money's just money." They worked through the night. Fitz hacked into satellite surveillance systems, downloaded real-time imagery of the compound. Doc made a list of medical supplies they'd need. Everything from combat gauze to morphine. Hawk sketched out potential assault plans, crossing out the ones that would get them killed immediately, refining the ones that would only probably get them killed. Maya calculated sniper positions, lines of sight, wind patterns, everything she'd need to provide cover fire from 1,000 meters out. Walter sat in the corner, quiet, watching. Sometimes he'd offer suggestions, small things, the way desert sand moved in thermal currents, the way sound carried at night in open terrain, the kind of knowledge that came from experience, from being there, from surviving. By dawn, they had a plan. It was desperate, dangerous, relied on perfect timing, perfect execution, and a significant amount of luck. "We're going to die," Doc said, looking at the final assault plan laid out on Olivia's kitchen table. "Probably," Olivia agreed. "Cool. Just wanted to confirm." They bought the gear in Bulgaria through encrypted channels and dead drops. The Bulgarian dealer didn't ask questions, didn't care who they were or what they were planning, just took Olivia's money and provided weapons that couldn't be traced. 5 M4A1 carbines with suppressors, Level 4 body armor that could stop rifle rounds, PVS-31 dual-tube night vision, C4 explosives, thermite grenades, a Barrett M82 50 caliber sniper rifle with match-grade ammunition for Maya, satellite phones with encrypted channels, GPS units, medical supplies that could handle anything short of arterial bleeding. It was enough equipment to outfit a small army, or 5 operators and 1 old janitor on a suicide mission. They flew to Ankara, Turkey using false passports that Fitz had created, good enough to fool border security. Wouldn't hold up to serious scrutiny. That was fine. They didn't plan on coming back through official channels. The crossing into Syria happened at night. Kurdish fighters controlled this section of the border. They didn't like Assad, didn't like ISIS, didn't like anyone really, but they liked American dollars. Olivia paid them $15,000 to look the other way for 4 hours. The Syrian desert at night was cold, colder than Olivia had expected. The team moved in single file, night vision turning the world into green-tinted shadows. Each of them carried 60 pounds of gear. Each step was measured. Careful, leaving minimal trace. Walter struggled. He tried to hide it, but Olivia could see. The way he favored his left leg, the way he paused to catch his breath, the way his hands shook when he thought no one was looking. On the second night, Olivia called a halt. They were 20 miles from the compound, still outside engagement range, far enough to risk a conversation. "Walter," she said quietly, "you don't have to do this." He looked at her. The moonlight caught his eyes. They were gray and faded and completely certain. "Yes," he said, "I do. You could die out here. Heat stroke, injury, combat, any of 100 things. I've been dying for 12 years, dying of guilt, dying of knowing I ran when I should have stayed." He adjusted his pack. "At least this way I get to choose how it ends." They kept moving. 4 days of trekking through terrain that wanted to kill them. Scorpions, snakes, heat during the day that climbed past 120 degrees, cold at night that dropped to freezing. They rationed water, moved during twilight hours, hid during the day in whatever shade they could find. On the 4th day, they reached the ridge overlooking the compound. Maya set up the Barrett. 1,200 meters from target. Long shot, but within range. She looked through the scope and saw hell. The compound was exactly as the intelligence described. Concrete buildings, guard towers, razor wire, men in mismatched uniforms patrolling the perimeter. Some carried AK-47s. Others had more modern weapons. American weapons, stolen or bought or taken from dead soldiers. "I count 32 hostiles in the compound," Fitz reported, studying his handheld device. 3 guard towers, rotation every 4 hours. Next rotation is at 2300 hours. "That's our window," Hawk said. "Olivia." Maya's voice was strange, tight. "You need to see this." Olivia moved to the scope, took Maya's position, looked through. A door had opened in the main building. 2 guards led a man out into an exercise yard. He was thin. So thin Olivia could see his ribs through the dirty shirt he wore. His hair was long and gray. His beard reached his chest. He limped, favoring his right leg. But when he straightened up, when he looked at the sky, Olivia saw his face clearly through the scope. Daniel Mercer, her father, alive. Right there, 1,200 meters away. after 12 years. She'd found him. Olivia's hands were rock steady on the rifle. Her breathing was controlled. Her heart rate was slow. But inside, in the place she kept locked away, she was screaming. "I've got him," she whispered into her radio. "Cell block D, exercise yard, confirmed." "Copy that," Fitz said. 32 hostiles, 3 guard towers. Next rotation at 2300 hours. "That's our window," Hawk said. Olivia stayed on the scope, watching, memorizing. Her father was brought out twice a day, morning and evening, 15 minutes each time, always with 2 guards, always with his hands bound. He moved like someone who was broken but not beaten, someone who'd survived by making himself valuable, someone who was waiting, planning, still fighting even though he was in chains. On the second night, Olivia saw him look toward the ridge, just for a moment, like he could feel someone watching, like some part of him knew. She wanted to shout, to wave, to let him know she was there. But she stayed silent. Professional. A sniper on Overwatch. "Tomorrow night," she said into the radio, 0 hour is 22:30. Maximum darkness. Hawk creates diversion on the east perimeter. Maya takes out sentries from here. Doc and Fitz breach west entrance. I move in last, straight to cell block D. She paused. 15 minutes from breach to extraction. Everyone clear. 4 affirmatives came back. "What about me?" Walter asked. "You stay here. Provide communications relay. If this goes wrong, you call in extraction for whoever makes it out. And if nobody makes it out..." Olivia didn't answer that. The night before the assault, Olivia couldn't sleep. She lay in her sleeping bag, staring at the stars, thinking about her father 1,200 meters away. Thinking about the 12 years he'd been a prisoner. Thinking about how close they were to getting him back. Or how close they were to dying. Walter sat beside her, keeping watch. "You're like him, you know," he said quietly. "Your father, the way you move, the way you think. He'd be proud of what you've become." "I'm about to invade a foreign country without authorization. Pretty sure that's not what he'd want. He'd want you to come for him. He'd do the same for you, without hesitation, without permission, without caring about consequences." Walter was quiet for a moment. "You know what he told me that last night before the ambush?" Olivia turned her head. He said his daughter was going to be something special. Said he could see it in her. The warrior spirit. The refusal to quit. He said you were going to be better than he ever was. Olivia felt tears on her face. She didn't wipe them away. "We're going to get him back." "I know. And you're going to help me do it." "I know that too." The stars turned overhead. The desert was silent, except for the wind. And 1,200 meters away, in a concrete cell, Daniel Mercer slept and dreamed of a daughter he hadn't seen in 12 years. Wondering if she even remembered him, she remembered. She was coming. The Syrian desert at 0200 hours was absolute black. No moon. Cloud cover thick enough to block the stars. Perfect conditions for what came next. Olivia lay prone on the ridge. Eye pressed to the Barrett's scope. The night vision painted everything in shades of green. 1,200 meters away, the compound sat like a cancer on the desert floor. 3 guard towers. 32 hostiles. 1 prisoner who'd been waiting 12 years for someone to come. Her finger rested beside the trigger guard. Not on it. Never on it until you're ready to kill. Her father had taught her that when she was 12 years old. "All stations, this is Ghost," she whispered into her throat mic. "Radio check." "Hawk, good copy." Doc, good copy. Fitz 5 by 5. Maya ready. Ironside, copy. Walter's voice was steady. He was 50 meters behind her, manning the communications relay. Olivia checked her watch, 2:28. 2 minutes. Through the scope, she could see the guard in Tower 1. He was smoking. The cigarette's ember was bright and thermal. A small sun against his face. Tower 2's guard was leaning against the railing. Head down. Maybe sleeping. Tower 3 was alert. Scanning the perimeter with binoculars. Tower 3 would be first. 60 seconds, Olivia whispered. She controlled her breathing. In through the nose, 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out through the mouth for 4. Her heart rate slowed. 60 beats per minute. 55. 50. The world narrowed to the scope, to the crosshairs, to the wind she couldn't feel but knew was there, blowing left to right at 8 miles per hour. She adjusted her aim. 3 inches left, half an inch up. Accounting for bullet drop at this distance, accounting for the Earth's rotation, accounting for everything her father had drilled into her during 10,000 practice shots. 30 seconds. Tower 3's guard lowered his binoculars, turned to look at something inside the compound. His profile was clean. Clear. Perfect. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Olivia's finger moved to the trigger. 3. 2. 1. Execute. 3 things happened simultaneously. Hawk detonated the charges he'd planted on the east perimeter. The explosion was massive, theatrical, exactly what they needed. A fireball rose into the night sky. The sound rolled across the desert like thunder. Every guard in the compound turned toward the explosion. And Maya fired. The Barrett kicked like a mule. The sound was enormous, but it didn't matter anymore. They were committed. Through her scope, Maya watched Tower 3's guard drop. Not wounded. Dead. The round had taken him center mass. The impact threw him backward off the tower entirely. She cycled the bolt, smooth, automatic. Muscle memory from 1,000 repetitions. Tower 1. The guard had dropped his cigarette, was reaching for his radio. Maya adjusted. Fired. The guard went down hard, slumping over the railing. Cycle, breathe, acquire, Tower 2. The guard who'd been sleeping was awake now, scrambling for his weapon. Maya put the crosshairs on his chest. Squeezed. 3 shots. 3 kills. 8 seconds. Tower's clear, she reported. Doc Fitz, your go. Moving. Olivia shifted her position, grabbed her M4A1, started running down the ridge toward the compound. Ghost negative, Maya's voice came through the radio. Stay on overwatch. I've got this position. You need support. I'm coming. The desert floor was uneven, rocky, treacherous in the dark. Olivia ran anyway. Night vision turned the world into a green nightmare, but she'd trained for this. Countless night operations. Countless runs through terrain that wanted to kill her. She covered 400 meters in 90 seconds. Her lungs were burning, but her hands were steady when she reached the compound's west wall. She could hear gunfire inside now, not suppressed. The enemy had made contact with her team. Olivia found a ladder on the side of Tower 1. Climbed it. The guard Maya had shot was still there, sprawled across the platform in a position that no living person could maintain. She stepped over him and used the tower's elevated position to scan the compound. There, cell block D, a concrete structure in the northwest corner. Doc and Fitz were pinned down outside the entrance by 6 guards using a transport truck for cover. Olivia raised her M4. Aimed. Fired. 3-round burst. 1 guard down. Shift. Fire. 2nd guard down. The remaining 4 realized they were being shot from behind. Turned toward the tower. Olivia was already moving. Descending the ladder, using the tower itself for cover as return fire sparked off the metal. She hit the ground. Rolled. Came up behind a concrete barrier. The guards were exposed now. Caught between Olivia and her team. Doc and Fitz took advantage. 30 seconds later, all 6 guards were down. "Cell block D secured," Doc reported. "We're going in." Olivia sprinted across the compound. Her boots crunched on gravel. Somewhere behind her she could hear more shouting. More gunfire. The compound was fully alert now. It was only a matter of time before they were overwhelmed. She reached cell block D. The door was heavy steel, but Fitz had already bypassed the electronic lock. He pushed it open. They entered. The interior was exactly what Olivia had expected, and worse than she'd imagined. Concrete corridors, the smell of human waste and decay. Small cells lining both sides, each with a heavy metal door and a small viewing slot. Most cells were empty. Some contained prisoners, men in rags, staring at the newcomers with eyes that had seen too much. "End of the corridor," Fitz said, checking his handheld device. "Cell 7. They moved fast. Doc swept each cell they passed, making sure no one was hiding. No ambush waiting. Olivia's finger was on her trigger, weapon up, ready for anything. And then they reached cell 7. The door was locked. Not electronically, old-fashioned deadbolt. Fitz pulled out a breaching tool, positioned it, pulled the trigger. The door frame shattered. He kicked the door open. The cell was small, 8 feet by 8 feet. A cot in one corner, a bucket in the other. And sitting on the cot, looking up at them with eyes that Olivia had seen in mirrors her entire life, was her father. Daniel Mercer was almost unrecognizable. The man in Olivia's memories had been 200 pounds of muscle and certainty. The man in front of her was maybe 140. His hair was gray and long. His beard reached his chest. His skin was weathered like old leather. His clothes were rags. But his eyes were clear, alert, calculating the threat even as he saw the American equipment, the familiar weapons, the possibility of rescue. Those eyes locked onto Olivia's face, and for a moment time stopped. "Dad!" Her voice broke on the word. Daniel stood slowly, like someone who'd forgotten how to trust good news. He took one step forward, then another. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Olivia." It was barely a whisper, like he was afraid saying her name would make her disappear. "You're not real. You can't be real." Olivia lowered her weapon, took off her helmet. Let him see her clearly. "I'm real, Dad. I'm here. I'm getting you out." Something broke inside Daniel Mercer. Olivia saw it happen. 12 years of holding himself together. 12 years of surviving by becoming stone. All of it cracked and crumbled. He took 3 quick steps and pulled her into his arms. He was shaking. They both were. Olivia felt tears on her face and didn't know if they were hers or his or both. Her father smelled like unwashed human and desperation and survival. He felt like bones wrapped in skin, but he was alive. He was real. He was here. "You shouldn't have come," Daniel said into her hair. "You shouldn't have risked. I'm not leaving you. Not again, not ever." "How did you—" "We need to move," Doc interrupted gently. "Extraction window is closing." Daniel pulled back, looked at Olivia's face like he was memorizing it. Then his operator training reasserted itself. He straightened up. His eyes cleared. Became tactical. "How many are you?" 5 + 1. Small team. Unsanctioned. Daniel smiled. It was small and broken, but real. "That's my girl. Who's in command?" "I am." The smile grew. "Then let's get the hell out of here." They moved back through the cell block. Doc handed Daniel a spare sidearm. A Glock 19. Daniel checked it with movements that were automatic. Ingrained. Impossible to forget even after 12 years. They reached the door. Fitz held up a hand. "We've got a problem." "Define problem." "The explosion brought more people than expected. I'm counting 50+ hostiles converging on the compound. Maybe a nearby outpost responding. We're going to be cut off." "Where's our extraction?" 2 clicks north. But we'll never make it through that many hostiles on foot." "Then we thin the herd first," Daniel said. His voice was rough from disuse, but the command in it was unmistakable. "What's your heaviest firepower?" "C4 and thermite. I can bring down the whole compound if needed." Daniel looked at Olivia. "You have a sniper on Overwatch." "Maya Chen. Barrett M82 on the ridge. 1,200 meters out." "Good. Here's what we do. Plant explosives on structural supports. Create chaos. Use the confusion to break contact. Maya provides covering fire while we move to extraction. Standard E&E protocol." It was a good plan. Simple. Direct. Exactly what Olivia would have done. What she had been trained to do by the man giving the orders. "Fitz, you heard him. Start planting charges. 5-minute fuse. Doc, you're on point. Dad, you're in the middle. I'm rear guard." They moved out of cell block D, back into the compound. The night had descended into chaos. Hawk's diversion was still burning on the east side. Guards were running everywhere, shouting orders, firing at shadows. The additional hostiles Fitz had detected were pouring through the main gate, heavily armed, organized. Olivia's team moved through the chaos like ghosts. Fitz planted charges on 3 support columns. Doc led them through gaps in the guard patrols. Olivia covered their rear, dropping anyone who got too close. They were 50 meters from the west gate when the lights came on. Not the compound's normal lighting. Spotlights. Massive ones. They illuminated everything, turning night into day, eliminating every shadow, every hiding place. And a voice boomed over loudspeakers, speaking English with a Russian accent. "Welcome, Miss Mercer. I have been expecting you." Olivia's blood went cold. They were exposed. Surrounded. The west gate was blocked now by 15 guards with automatic weapons. The east was still burning. North and south exits had armed men pouring through them. They were trapped. "Into that building." Daniel pointed at a maintenance structure. "Now!" They ran. Bullets chased them. Sparking off concrete, they made it inside, slammed the door. It wouldn't hold for long, but it gave them a moment. "This is bad," Fitz said, breathing hard. "It's a trap," Daniel said. He was looking at Olivia. "They knew you were coming." Olivia's mind raced. How they'd been careful. Moved in darkness. Used encrypted communications. Unless... "Volkov must have surveillance on Fort Campbell," she said. "He could have seen us leave. Tracked us." Fitz cursed. "The satellite imagery I accessed. If Volkov has people inside DoD systems, they could have seen my digital footprint. Traced it back." "Doesn't matter how." Daniel cut in. "They know. We adapt." The voice came over the loudspeakers again. You have fought well, but you are surrounded. 120 men. All exits blocked. You cannot escape. Olivia checked her ammunition. 3 magazines left. She looked at her team. Doc was bleeding from a graze on his arm. Fitz's vest had bullet impacts. Hawk was nowhere to be seen, still running his diversion on the east side. I am Nikolai Volkov, the voice continued. You may have heard of me. I have been holding your father for 12 years, a very valuable asset, and now you have made yourself valuable as well. A door at the back of the maintenance building opened. Olivia spun weapon up, but it was Hawk, covered in soot, breathing hard. What the hell happened? I saw the lights come up. Volkov knew we were coming, Olivia said. We're trapped. So what do we do? Olivia looked at her father, at the man who'd trained her, who'd taught her everything she knew about combat, about survival, about never giving up. We fight our way out. Daniel smiled. That same broken, proud smile. That's what I would have said. The building's door exploded inward. Breaching charge. Guards poured through. Weapons raised. Olivia's team opened fire. The confined space became a nightmare of noise and muzzle flash. Guards dropped, but more kept coming. They fell back through a side door, into an alley between buildings. More guards waiting. Olivia threw a thermite grenade. White-hot fire erupted, creating a wall between them and the enemy. This way. Daniel led them through a gap in the fence, into an open area. Bad tactical position, but better than being trapped inside. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions. Olivia felt something tug at her vest. Impact. The armor held, but she'd have bruises. We're not going to make it, Doc said. He wasn't panicking, just stating facts. And then the radio crackled. Ghost, this is Ironside, Walter's voice. I'm coming in. Negative, Olivia shouted into her mic. Stay on the ridge. We need you for extraction coordination. You need a miracle. I'm bringing one. Olivia heard an engine. A truck engine. Getting louder. She looked toward the compound's main gate and saw something that didn't make sense. A transport truck was accelerating toward the gate, moving fast, too fast. The guards at the gate raised their weapons, started firing at it. The truck didn't slow down. It hit the gate at 40 miles per hour. The gate disintegrated. The truck kept coming, into the compound, toward the center where Olivia's team was pinned down. And then Olivia understood. No! She screamed into the radio. Walter, no! The truck was loaded with every explosive they had left. C4, thermite, grenades, all of it. Walter had loaded it all into the truck, and he was driving it straight into the heart of the compound, straight toward the ammunition depot on the east side. I've been dying for 12 years, Walter's voice came through the radio. Calm, peaceful. Time to make it count. Walter, please. Tell Daniel I kept my promise. Tell him I didn't run this time. The truck was 30 meters from Olivia's position, heading straight for the largest concentration of enemy forces. Get down! Daniel screamed. He grabbed Olivia, pushed her behind a concrete barrier. Doc Fitz, Hawk, and Maya dove for cover. The explosion was apocalyptic. It wasn't one blast. It was a chain reaction. Walter's truck detonated, then the ammunition depot, then the fuel storage tanks. The entire compound became fire and shockwave and devastation. Olivia felt the heat wash over her, felt the ground shake, felt debris raining down like hail. The spotlights died, the loudspeakers went silent, and when she looked up, half the compound was simply gone. The organized force that had trapped them was shattered, scattered, destroyed. Move, Daniel said. Now, while they're disorganized, They ran through smoke and fire and chaos. The north exit was unguarded. The men who'd been there were either dead or helping the wounded. Olivia's team burst through into the open desert. Behind them, secondary explosions continued. The compound was eating itself, destroying everything. Including Olivia knew Walter's body. They ran for 15 minutes before Daniel called a halt. They were a kilometer from the compound, far enough to be safe, close enough to see the fire painting the sky orange. "Ironside," Olivia said into her radio, even though she knew. "Walter, do you copy?" Silence. "Walter, please respond." Nothing. She kept trying, kept calling his name, even as they resumed moving toward the extraction point, even as the fire behind them began to die, even as the sun started to rise and paint the desert in shades of red that looked too much like blood. Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. He made his choice. He died a warrior. He was supposed to stay back. He was supposed to be safe. He was never going to be safe, not with the guilt he carried. Daniel's voice was gentle. He got to die saving his brothers. That's what he wanted. That's what he needed. They reached the extraction point, 2 kilometers from the compound, a rocky outcropping that provided some concealment. Olivia collapsed against a boulder. Her team gathered around her. They'd all survived. Miraculously. Impossibly. But Walter was gone. And they weren't safe yet. They were in hostile territory with no official support, 200 miles from the Turkish border, with a man who'd been legally dead for 12 years and couldn't exactly walk through a checkpoint. "We need to move," Olivia said finally. "Kurdish fighters are expecting us at the border in 6 hours. We don't make that window, we're on our own." "You have a plan for crossing?" Daniel asked. "Same way we came in. Bribe and false papers." "That won't work with me. I'm flagged in every database. KIA. The moment my biometrics hit any system, alarms go off." "Then we don't use official crossings. We hike. Through mountains and desert." Daniel smiled. "Just like old times." They walked for 4 days, rationing water, moving during twilight hours, hiding during the day. Daniel was weak from 12 years of captivity, but he kept pace, never complained, never slowed them down. He was a professional to his core. On the 3rd day, they heard helicopters. American Olivia thought from the sound. Search and rescue or pursuit. They hid in a cave until the sound faded. On the 4th day, they crossed into Turkey. The Kurdish fighters met them as promised, provided transport to Ankara. From there, Olivia made a phone call. "You're in so much trouble," Agent Webb said when he heard her voice. "I have Master Sergeant Daniel Mercer, alive, in Turkey. We need immediate extraction and medical." There was a long pause. Then, "Stand by." 6 hours later, a military transport landed at a private airfield outside Ankara. Medical personnel took Daniel immediately. 3 weeks of debriefing followed. Questions, investigations, threats of court-martial. But the public pressure was too strong. Olivia's video had 40 million views now. The story of her father being held captive for 12 years was international news. The story of her unsanctioned rescue mission was being called either heroic or reckless, depending on who you asked. In the end, the Pentagon quietly gave Olivia's team medals that would never be publicly acknowledged. Daniel was officially recovered, with no details about how. Marcus Kane got life in prison for treason. General Kane was forced into retirement, stripped of his rank, stripped of his pension, stripped of everything he'd sold his soul to protect. And Walter Hendricks was finally given the recognition he deserved. 3 months after Syria, Olivia stood in Arlington National Cemetery. Section 60. Where Heroes Are Buried. Two graves sat side by side. The first belonged to Master Sergeant Daniel Mercer, though he was standing right beside Olivia, very much alive. This grave was symbolic. For the 12 years he was lost. For the man he was before captivity. For the sacrifice that had been made even if he survived. The second grave was real. Sergeant First Class Walter Hendricks, 82nd Airborne. Desert Storm veteran. True hero. 1,000 people had come. Veterans. Active duty. Civilians who'd been inspired by the story of an old janitor who'd been more than he appeared, who'd saved lives with his final act, who'd driven a truck full of explosives into the heart of an enemy compound so that others could escape. Olivia wore her dress blues. Daniel stood beside her in his. They'd both been cleared to attend. Both been cleared of charges. Both been given a second chance. The chaplain's voice carried across the silent crowd. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Olivia felt the words hit her chest like bullets. Walter had laid down his life, not for friends, for strangers, for a promise he'd made 12 years ago, for a debt he believed he could never repay. 7 riflemen stepped forward. They raised their weapons. 3 volleys. 21 shots. The sound echoed across the cemetery. Each shot a goodbye. Each shot a thank you. Each shot a promise that his sacrifice would not be forgotten. A bugler stepped forward. The first notes of taps floated through the morning air. Olivia's vision blurred. She'd heard taps 100 times, at 100 funerals, for 100 fallen brothers and sisters. But this was different. This was personal. This was Walter. The flag that draped his casket was lifted, folded with precision, triangle after triangle, until only the blue field of stars remained visible. The honor guard presented it to Olivia, because Walter had no living family, because she was the closest thing he had. On behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service. Olivia took the flag. Her hands were shaking. She held it against her chest. This piece of fabric that men died for, that Walter died for. The ceremony ended. People began to drift away, shaking hands, exchanging hugs, sharing memories of a man most of them had never met but felt like they knew. Olivia didn't move. Daniel stood beside her, silent, understanding. He was a good man, Daniel said finally. His voice was rough. He spent 12 years trying to save me, never gave up. I know. When I saw that truck coming, I knew immediately what he'd done. Who was driving? Daniel put his arm around Olivia's shoulders. He died free. Free of guilt. Free of regret. That's more than most people get. Is it enough? It has to be. They stood there for a long time, watching the groundskeepers begin to fill the grave, watching the last visitors leave, watching the sun climb higher in the sky. I need to tell you something, Daniel said. Olivia looked at him. Those 12 years, when I was being held, I thought about you every single day. His voice cracked. Every morning I would wake up and think about what you might be doing, whether you'd finished college, whether you'd found someone to love, whether you were happy. He paused. And every night before I fell asleep, I would pray. Not for rescue, not for freedom, just for you to be safe, for you to have a good life, even if I never got to see it." Olivia felt tears streaming down her face. "Dad, let me finish. When they brought me out to the exercise yard that night, I looked toward the ridge. I don't know why. Instinct maybe, or something else." He turned to face her. "And I felt something, a presence, a connection, like you were there, like you were watching." I was. I know that now. But in that moment I thought I was going crazy. 12 years of hoping and finally losing my mind. He pulled her into his arms. "But you came. You actually came. My little girl crossed the world to save me." "I'm not a little girl anymore, Dad." "I know. You're a warrior, the best I've ever trained." He pulled back, looked at her face. "And I am so goddamn proud of you." 2 weeks later, Olivia received a phone call. "Ms. Mercer, this is Colonel Harrison." The same colonel who'd tried to stop her from going to Syria. The same one who'd told her to wait for diplomatic channels. "Colonel, I'm calling to offer you a position." Olivia almost laughed. "You're offering me a job, after everything that happened." "After everything that happened, yes. We need people like you. People who don't wait for permission. People who get things done." "What kind of position?" "Combat instructor. Fort Campbell. Your father's old job, actually. We want you to train the next generation." Olivia was silent for a long moment. "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long. The offer expires in 48 hours. He hung up. Olivia sat in her apartment staring at the phone. Her father's old job. Training soldiers. Teaching them how to fight, how to survive, how to come home. It felt right. It felt like the next chapter. She called the colonel back that night. "I'm in." 6 months after Syria. Olivia stood in the same training facility where she'd confronted Marcus Kane. The rubber mats were the same. The fluorescent lights were the same. The observation deck above was the same. But everything else had changed. The third-degree black belt certificate was gone from the wall, replaced by a memorial plaque. "In memory of those who stand for the defenseless." 50 soldiers sat along the walls. New faces. Fresh eyes. Ready to learn. Olivia walked to the center of the mat. "My name is Olivia Mercer. I'm your new combat instructor." She paused. "Some of you know who I am. You've seen the video. You know what happened in this room a year ago." A few soldiers nodded. "Good. Then you know I don't tolerate bullies. I don't tolerate cowards. And I don't tolerate anyone who thinks strength is about dominating others." She began to pace. Real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about knowing when to hit and when to hold back. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about standing up when everyone else sits down. She stopped. "That's what I'm going to teach you. Not just how to fight, but why to fight, and who to fight for." A hand went up. Private Emma Hayes, 19 years old, fresh-faced, eager. "Ma'am, is it true what they say about the janitor?" Olivia felt something tighten in her chest. "What did they say? That he was a veteran, that nobody knew, that he saved your father's life and died a hero?" Olivia was quiet for a moment. "His name was Walter Hendricks. He was 71 years old. He had PTSD and bad knees and hands that shook when it was cold." She walked toward the memorial plaque. "He spent 9 years cleaning floors and emptying trash cans and being invisible. Because that's what happens to old soldiers. They fade away. They become background noise. They get forgotten." She touched the plaque. But Walter never forgot who he was. When it mattered, when lives were on the line, he drove a truck full of explosives into an enemy compound so that we could escape. She turned back to face the soldiers. He was 71 years old, and he was the bravest man I've ever known. Private Hayes's eyes were wet. Why did he do it? Because he owed a debt. 12 years earlier, my father saved his life. Walter spent 12 years carrying that guilt, carrying the weight of being the one who survived. Olivia's voice softened. That night in Syria, he finally got to pay it back. He finally got to choose how his story ended. Do you miss him? Every day? The room was silent. That's what I want you to understand, Olivia continued. The people sitting next to you right now, the people sleeping in the bunks beside you, the people you'll deploy with someday. They're not just soldiers. They're brothers and sisters. They're family. She gestured to the soldiers along the wall. You will fight for them. You will bleed for them. And if necessary, you will die for them. Because that's what warriors do. That's what makes us different from everyone else. She clapped her hands. Now, on your feet. Time to learn how to survive. After the training session, Olivia walked to her office. Daniel was waiting outside the door. He looked better now. Still thin but stronger. His hair was trimmed short. His beard was gone. He was wearing civilian clothes, but he carried himself like a soldier. He always would. That was a hell of a speech, he said. You were watching from the observation deck, just like old times. Olivia unlocked her office. They went inside. How are you adjusting? She asked. To freedom. To normal life. Daniel laughed, but there was an edge to it. I've been sleeping with the lights on. I panic when doors lock behind me. I still wake up thinking I'm in that cell. He sat down heavily. 12 years is a long time. You don't just walk away from that. Have you talked to someone, a therapist? I'm talking to you. I mean a professional. You're my daughter. That's professional enough. Olivia sat across from him. Dad, you need help. Real help. What you went through. I know what I went through. I was there. His voice was sharper than he intended. He caught himself, took a breath. I'm sorry. I'm still learning how to be around people again. It's okay. No, it's not. You risked everything to save me. The least I can do is not bite your head off. He was quiet for a moment. The truth is, I don't know who I am anymore. For 12 years, I was a prisoner. That was my identity. That was my purpose. Survive another day. Don't break. Don't give up. He looked at his hands. Now I'm free. And I don't know what to do with that freedom. Olivia reached across and took his hands in hers. Then we figure it out together. That's what family does. Daniel looked up at her. His eyes were wet. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. He laughed. A real laugh this time. I taught you how to shoot and how to fight. I don't remember teaching you how to handle broken old men. You taught me how to never give up. How to keep fighting even when everything seems impossible. How to believe in something bigger than myself. She squeezed his hands. That's what got me through the last 12 years. Believing that someday, somehow, I'd see you again. And now you have. And now I have. They sat there for a long moment. Father and daughter. Survivor and rescuer. Two warriors who'd found their way back to each other. I want to help, Daniel said finally. Help with what? Training, teaching, whatever you're doing here. He gestured around the office. I spent 12 years teaching combat techniques to the enemy. Let me spend the rest of my life teaching them to our side. Olivia smiled. I think that can be arranged. A knock at the door. Private Hayes stood in the doorway, nervous, uncertain. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent." "Who is it?" "An FBI agent, Special Agent Webb." Olivia's smile faded. "Send him in." Agent Webb entered the office. He looked older than Olivia remembered, more tired, but his eyes were still sharp. "Ms. Mercer, Mr. Mercer," he nodded to each of them. "I apologize for the interruption." "What do you want?" Olivia asked. "I wanted to deliver some news in person. Nikolai Volkov is dead." Olivia felt something shift in her chest. "How?" "Car bomb. 3 days ago in Moscow. Our intelligence suggests it was an internal power struggle. His own people turned on him." "Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy," Daniel said. "There's more." Webb pulled out a folder. "We've been going through his records, his communications, his networks." He placed the folder on Olivia's desk. "We found evidence of 12 other American prisoners, still being held in various locations." Olivia's blood went cold. 12 POWs, contractors, intelligence officers. Some have been captive for over 20 years. All officially listed as KIA. And the government knew. Some people knew. The same people who knew about your father. Webb's voice was carefully neutral. "We're putting together extraction teams. Unofficial, off the books. The kind of operations that never happened." He looked at Olivia. "We want you to lead them." Olivia stared at him. "You want me to lead unsanctioned rescue missions into hostile territory? We want you to bring our people home, by any means necessary." "That's exactly what I did 6 months ago. You threatened to court-martial me for it." "That was before. Things have changed." "What's changed?" Webb smiled slightly. "You proved it could be done. You proved one team operating outside official channels could succeed where diplomacy failed." He tapped the folder. 12 Americans are still out there, waiting for someone to come for them. Waiting for someone who won't give up." He looked at her directly. "You didn't give up on your father. Will you give up on them?" Olivia looked at Daniel. He nodded slowly. She looked back at Webb. "I'll need my team. Hawk, Doc, Fitz, Maya, same people as before." "Done." "I'll need resources, funding, equipment. No questions asked." "Done." "And I'll need one more thing." "Name it." Olivia picked up the folder, looked at the faces inside. 12 Americans, 12 families, 12 chances to make things right. "I'll need you to stay out of my way." Webb smiled. "Done." He turned to leave, stopped at the door. "One more thing. The video, the one from the training facility, the one that started all of this. What about it? It has over 100 million views now. People all over the world have seen it. They've seen what happens when someone stands up to a bully, when someone fights for what's right." He paused. "You've become a symbol, Ms. Mercer, whether you wanted to or not." "I didn't do it to become a symbol." "I know. That's what makes it powerful." He left. Olivia sat with the folder in her hands. 12 faces stared back at her. 12 prisoners. 12 missions. 12 chances to do what she'd done for her father. "You don't have to do this," Daniel said quietly. "Yes, I do." "Why?" "Because someone has to. Because they're out there waiting. Because I know what it's like to think no one is coming." She looked at him. "Because Walter taught me that you don't get to choose when your life matters. You only get to choose what you do when the moment comes." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "Then I'm coming with you." "Dad, don't argue. I spent 12 years as a prisoner. I know how they think. I know how they operate. I know things that could save lives." He stood up. "Besides, you're going to need someone to watch your back. Might as well be someone who taught you everything you know." Olivia smiled. "Not everything." "No. Walter taught me some things too." Daniel nodded slowly. "He was a good teacher. The best." She stood up, placed the folder in her desk drawer, locked it. "We start planning tomorrow. First mission in 3 weeks. Where? Iran. A compound outside Tehran. 1 prisoner. American contractor named James Morrison, captured in 2019. That's a hard target." "They're all hard targets." Olivia walked to the window, looked out at the base, at the soldiers training, at the flag flying in the evening breeze. "But we're going to hit every single one. We're going to bring them all home." She turned back to her father. "Every last one." Daniel smiled, that same broken, proud smile she remembered from childhood. "That's my girl." 1 year later, Olivia stood at the memorial plaque in the Fort Campbell training facility. 12 missions completed. 12 Americans brought home. James Morrison from Iran, Sarah Chen from Pakistan, Michael Torres from Yemen, and 9 others whose names would never appear in any newspaper, but whose families would never stop being grateful. Each mission had been harder than the last. Each one had pushed Olivia and her team to the breaking point. Each one had reminded her why she did this work. Because someone had to. Because they were out there waiting. Because Walter had taught her that you don't choose when your life matters. You only choose what you do when the moment comes. She touched the plaque. "In memory of those who stand for the defenseless." Talking to him again, Daniel's voice came from behind her. "Every morning," Olivia said, "before training starts." "What do you tell him?" "Everything. The missions, the rescues, the close calls." She paused. "The ones we almost lost." "He'd be proud." "I hope so." Daniel walked up beside her. He looked healthier now than he had a year ago. Stronger. The shadows in his eyes were still there, but they were fading, day by day, mission by mission. "I have news," he said. "Good or bad? Depends on how you look at it. Webb called this morning. They found another one." Olivia's heart clenched. "Another prisoner? No, another janitor." She turned to look at him. "What?" "Fort Benning, Georgia. 73-year-old custodian named Harold Freeman. Been working there for 6 years. Keeps to himself. Nobody pays attention to him." Daniel pulled out a photograph. Turns out he was Delta Force. 3 tours in Vietnam. Silver Star, 2 Purple Hearts. Captured in Cambodia in 1972. Escaped after 8 months. Never talked about it. Olivia looked at the photograph. An old man with white hair and tired eyes. Invisible. Forgotten. Just like Walter had been. "What's happening at Fort Benning?" "Same thing that was happening here. A young instructor with anger issues. Father's a congressman. Been abusing soldiers for months. Nobody can touch him. And Harold's been watching. Collecting evidence. Waiting for someone to do something." Olivia felt something stir in her chest. The same fire that had burned the night she confronted Marcus Kane. "When do we leave?" Daniel smiled. "I figured you'd say that. Flight leaves in 3 hours." Fort Benning was different from Fort Campbell. Bigger, busier, more eyes watching. But the problem was the same. Instructor Kyle Patterson stood in the center of the training facility berating a young private who'd made the mistake of dropping his weapon during a drill. Patterson was 32 years old, built like a tank. Former Green Beret. His father was Congressman Richard Patterson, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. which meant Kyle Patterson could do whatever he wanted to, whoever he wanted, and nobody could stop him. Nobody until now. Olivia watched from the observation deck. Daniel stood beside her. "Reminds me of someone," Daniel said quietly. "Marcus Kane. Same type, same arrogance, same belief that power makes you untouchable. Power doesn't make you untouchable. It just makes you think you are." Below, Patterson shoved the young private. The kid stumbled, fell, hit the mat hard. Patterson laughed. "Pathetic. You think the enemy is going to wait for you to pick up your weapon? You think they care if you're tired or scared or having a bad day?" He kicked the private's rifle across the mat. "Get up. Do it again. And this time, don't embarrass yourself." Olivia's hands tightened on the railing. "Easy," Daniel said. "We need to do this right." "I know. We need evidence, witnesses, a case that can't be buried." "I know. So don't go down there and—" The training facility door opened. An old man shuffled in, pushing a maintenance cart. Harold Freeman. Olivia's breath caught. It was happening again. "Excuse me," Harold said quietly. "Scheduled maintenance. I can come back." Patterson turned slowly. That same predatory smile that Marcus Kane had worn. That same contempt for anyone he considered beneath him. "Can't you see we're busy, old man?" "Yes, sir. I'll return after. Did I say you could speak?" Harold stopped. His hand tightened on the cart handle, and Olivia saw it. The same flicker she'd seen in Walter's eyes that night. The soldier hiding behind the janitor's uniform. The warrior waiting for his moment. "I asked you a question," Patterson said. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. "Did I say you could speak?" "No, sir." "Then why are you still talking?" Patterson reached out, grabbed Harold's shirt collar, pulled him close. "You know what I hate, old men who don't know their place. Old men who think they can waltz in here and interrupt my training. Old men who—" "That's enough." The voice came from the doorway. Olivia walked into the training facility. She moved the way she always moved. Like water, like something that could slip through cracks you didn't know existed. Patterson released Harold, turned to face her. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm the person telling you to let him go." Patterson laughed. "Another contractor, another nobody who thinks they can tell me what to do." He gestured to the soldiers along the wall. 50 of them, all watching, all afraid. "Do you know who my father is?" "Congressman Richard Patterson, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, 3-term incumbent, currently under investigation for misappropriation of defense funds." Patterson's smile faltered. "I also know you were discharged from Special Forces for conduct unbecoming, that your father pulled strings to get you this position, that you've been abusing soldiers for 2 years, and that 17 complaints have been filed against you, all buried by your father's influence." She stopped directly in front of him. "Sound familiar?" "Who told you that?" "I did my research." "Your research is wrong. I was honorably discharged." "The paperwork says honorable. The truth says something else." Patterson's face went red. "I don't know who you think you are, but I'm Olivia Mercer." The name hit the room like a thunderclap. Every soldier along the wall straightened up. Patterson took a step back. His eyes went wide. "The video," someone whispered. "That's her, the one who took down that black belt. The one who rescued her father from Syria. The one who—" "I know who she is," Patterson snapped. He was trying to regain control, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "Some contractor who got lucky. Some nobody who went viral. Some nobody who's going to give you the same choice I gave Marcus Kane." Olivia stepped closer. "Apologize to Harold. or we step on the mat." Patterson stared at her. Then he laughed. It was loud. Forced. The laugh of someone who knows they're in trouble but can't admit it. "You want to fight me? I'm a former Green Beret. I've killed people with my bare hands." "So have I." The laughter stopped. "Here's the deal," Olivia said. "You and me. Right here. Right now. If I win, you resign. You leave the military. You never train another soldier." She paused. "And you apologize to every person in this room you've ever hurt." Patterson's jaw clenched. "And if I win?" "You won't." "But if I do," Olivia shrugged, "then you'll have beaten the woman who took down Marcus Kane, the woman who rescued 12 prisoners from hostile territory, the woman with 100 million views." She smiled. "That should be good for your reputation." Patterson looked at the soldiers along the wall, at the phones coming out, at the opportunity to prove himself. His ego made the decision. "Deal." He stepped onto the mat. Olivia followed. Harold tried to stop her. "Miss, don't. He's dangerous. He's killed people before." Olivia looked at the old man, at the soldier hiding behind tired eyes. "So have I, Mr. Freeman. So have I." Patterson bounced on his feet, rolled his shoulders, cracked his neck. "This is going to be fun," he said. "I'm going to enjoy breaking you." Olivia didn't respond. She just dropped her weight, set her stance, and waited. Patterson came in fast, faster than Marcus Kane had been. More aggressive, more desperate to prove something. He threw a combination. Jab, cross, hook, knee. Olivia slipped the jab, parried the cross, blocked the hook, checked the knee. She didn't counter, didn't attack, just defended. Patterson threw more, spinning back kick, Superman punch, flying knee. Olivia moved around each one. Just barely. Just enough. The soldiers along the wall were watching in stunned silence. Patterson was throwing everything he had. Technique honed by years of special forces training. Power built by hours in the gym. And Olivia was making it look easy. "Stand still!" Patterson roared. He rushed in, lost control, went for a takedown, exactly what Olivia had been waiting for. She sprawled, her hips shot back. Her weight crashed down on his shoulders. Patterson's face hit the mat. She moved like liquid, spun to his back, locked her legs around his torso, her arms snaked around his throat. Rear naked choke. Perfect. Patterson tapped immediately, but Olivia didn't let go. "Apologize," she whispered in his ear. I'm sorry. Not to me, to them." She loosened the choke just enough for him to speak. "I'm sorry," Patterson shouted to the room. "I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for the abuse. I'm sorry for the humiliation. I'm sorry." He was crying now. Olivia let go. Patterson collapsed on the mat, gasping, sobbing, broken. Olivia stood up. She walked over to Harold Freeman. "Are you okay, sir?" Harold looked at her with eyes that were suddenly decades younger. "I've been waiting 30 years for someone to do that. Well, the waiting's over?" She helped him gather his cleaning supplies. Then she turned to face the soldiers along the wall. "Remember this, every one of you. Remember what happened here today." She pointed at Patterson still lying on the mat. "That's what happens to bullies. That's what happens to people who abuse their power, no matter who their father is, no matter how many strings they can pull." She looked at each face. "And remember this too. You don't have to wait for someone to save you. You don't have to be afraid. You can stand up. You can fight back. You can be the person who makes things right." She walked toward the exit, stopped at the door. I was just like you once, watching, waiting, hoping someone would do something." She looked back. Then I realized something. The someone I was waiting for was me. She walked out. 3 weeks later, Olivia received a letter. It was from Private Emma Hayes, the young woman who'd asked about Walter during that first training session. "Dear Instructor Mercer," the letter read, "I wanted to thank you for what you taught me. Not just the fighting techniques, not just the tactical skills, but the lesson about what real strength means. Last week I was in the mess hall when I saw a senior NCO harassing a new recruit. The kind of thing that happens every day on every base, the kind of thing nobody talks about. But I remembered what you said, about Walter, about standing up when everyone else sits down. So I did. I walked up to that NCO and told him to stop. He laughed at me, told me to mind my own business. I didn't back down. Other soldiers started watching, then more. Then the whole mess hall was silent, watching us. And you know what happened? The NCO backed down, just walked away, because suddenly he was the one being watched. He was the one being judged. That's when I understood what you meant. Real strength isn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being the one who refuses to look away, the one who says enough when everyone else is silent. I'm not a warrior like you. I probably never will be, but I can be someone who stands up, someone who speaks out, someone who makes a difference. Thank you for teaching me that. Private Emma Hayes." Olivia read the letter 3 times. Then she walked to the memorial plaque and read it again. This time she was smiling. "Did you hear that, Walter?" She stood up. She touched the plaque. "That's what you taught me. That's what I taught her. And now she'll teach someone else." She stepped back. "That's how it works. That's how we change things. One person at a time. One moment at a time. One choice at a time." Daniel found her there an hour later. "Webb called," he said. "They found 2 more prisoners, Afghanistan and Somalia. When do we leave?" "Tomorrow. But there's something else." Olivia turned to face him. "The president wants to meet you. Ceremony at the White House. Presidential Medal of Freedom. For you, for the team, and posthumously for Walter." Olivia was silent for a long moment. Walter's getting a medal. He's getting recognized. Finally. After everything. She felt tears prick her eyes. He would have hated that. All the attention. All the ceremony. Maybe. But his name will be remembered. His sacrifice will be honored. That matters. Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. "You did that. You made sure he wasn't forgotten. We did it. All of us. But you started it. That night in the training facility, when you could have walked away, when you could have let Marcus Kane keep being Marcus Kane." He squeezed her shoulder. "You chose to stand up. For an old janitor nobody knew. For a veteran nobody respected. For someone who couldn't stand up for himself." Olivia looked at the plaque one more time. He could have stood up. He chose not to. He was protecting his cover. Watching. Waiting. Gathering evidence. "But you didn't know that then?" "No, I didn't." "So why did you do it?" Olivia thought about the question. About that night. About the fear she'd felt. About the rage. About the moment she'd decided enough was enough. "Because my father taught me that warriors don't fight for glory. They fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." She turned to face Daniel. And because Walter was there, right there, on the ground, and nobody was helping him. 52 soldiers and nobody moved. Her voice hardened. Someone had to move. Someone had to say something. Someone had to be the one. And you were. I was. Daniel smiled. That same proud smile. Then let's go to the White House. Let's get Walter his medal. Let's make sure the whole world knows what he did. And then we go to Afghanistan and Somalia and wherever else we need to go. He extended his hand. Ready, Olivia took it. Always. The ceremony at the White House was everything Walter would have hated. Cameras, speeches, important people saying important things. But when the president placed the medal on the pillow that represented Walter's sacrifice, when he spoke Walter's name to a room full of generals and senators and dignitaries, Olivia felt something shift in her chest. Recognition. Finally. After 71 years of service, after 9 years of invisibility, after one final act of courage that saved 6 lives, Walter Hendricks was being seen. The president turned to Olivia. Ms. Mercer, on behalf of a grateful nation, I present you with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for extraordinary bravery, selfless service, and unwavering commitment to bringing our people home. He placed the medal around her neck. What you've done, the risks you've taken, the lives you've saved, these are the things that define true heroism. Olivia looked at the medal. Then she looked at the crowd, at Daniel standing proud in his dress uniform, at Hawk and Doc and Fitz and Maya, her team, her family. At the families of the 12 prisoners they'd rescued, crying tears of joy and gratitude. Thank you, Mr. President, she said. But I didn't do this for medals. I didn't do it for recognition. She touched the medal. I did it because my father taught me that real warriors fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. I did it because a janitor named Walter taught me that true strength protects the weak. And I did it because somewhere out there, right now, there are still people waiting for someone to come for them. She looked directly at the cameras. So this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. As long as there are Americans in captivity, as long as there are veterans being forgotten, as long as there are bullies who think power makes them untouchable, the work continues. She paused. Walter Hendricks spent 71 years serving his country. 9 of those years he spent invisible, cleaning floors, emptying trash, being nobody. Her voice strengthened. But in the end, he proved what I've always believed. It doesn't matter what uniform you wear or what title you hold. What matters is what you do when it counts. What matters is whether you run or whether you stand. She looked at the medal one more time. Walter stood, and so will I, every single day, for as long as it takes, for every single person who needs someone to come for them. She stepped back from the podium. The room erupted in applause. But Olivia wasn't listening. She was thinking about tomorrow, about Afghanistan, about Somalia, about the work that still needed to be done. 1 year later, the video of Olivia confronting Marcus Kane passed 200 million views. It had been translated into 47 languages. It had inspired protests against military abuse in 12 countries. It had changed policies at training facilities around the world, and it had started something that couldn't be stopped. A movement, a belief, a truth that warriors had known for thousands of years, but that the world was finally ready to hear. True strength doesn't dominate. It protects. True warriors don't fight for glory. They fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. And true honor isn't found in medals or ceremonies or recognition. It's found in the moment when everyone else looks away and you choose to look straight at the problem. When everyone else is silent and you choose to speak. When everyone else runs and you choose to stand. That's what Walter Hendricks taught Olivia Mercer. That's what Olivia taught Emma Hayes. That's what Emma taught the soldiers around her. And that's what those soldiers would teach the next generation. A chain of courage stretching forward through time. Started by an old janitor who refused to run. Continued by a young woman who refused to look away. And carried forward by everyone who heard the story and understood the truth. Real strength protects the weak. Real warriors fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. And real heroes aren't born. They're made one choice at a time, one moment at a time, one stand at a time. That is the legacy of Walter Hendricks. That is the mission of Olivia Mercer. And that is the lesson that will echo through generations. Stand up. Speak out. Fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Because that's what warriors do. And that's what you can do too.